Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us this evening. We've got a fascinating discussion on our hands today. After watching these two brothers have it out at Speaker's Corner, I think 2 weeks ago now, a very interesting topic. It's actually uploaded on my YouTube channel, COVFF. And also, brothers and sisters, I've got my Patreon pinned in the chat. The Patreon is for basically I give out free Qur'ans and free Islamic literature here in Coventry, and that really helps me with attaining free copies of the Qur'an and free literature to give out to the people, the members of the public here in Coventry, in where I live. So yeah, if you can click onto that and donate £1 a month, that's all I'm asking is £1 a month, nothing serious. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, thank you, brothers and sisters, already in the chat for giving your salams. I really appreciate it. But like I said, we've got a fascinating discussion, and we're going to get really straight into it, because if you watch those two clips I uploaded on my YouTube channel, Moses will be going first. And if you haven't watched those clips, Moses will be going first just to introduce himself, so you guys can recap regarding the narrative that Moses and Brother Abdullah had at Speaker's Corner. So Brother Moses, like I said, 2 minutes, but if you go over a couple of seconds or so, it's not a problem. As soon as you start speaking, okay, I will start the clock, and same with Abdullah, okay. And like I said, it is going to be like a live debate. It might get a bit heated, brothers and sisters, but we've got to be respectful in the chat. No negativity in the chat. If I see anybody being negative, any of the mods pick up anything, time people out. If not, then boot them out. I don't care. I don't care about views. I don't care about the audience. I want a respectful discussion. So please, let's keep it like that. So yeah, as you can see, the topic is kind of interesting, because it says Islam exposed, but we're going to unpack that hopefully with the introductions. So Brother Moses, welcome to the show.
Hello, how's everybody?
All good, Moses.
So,
Everything's good. Your sound is fantastic. As soon as you start speaking now, Moses, I'll start the stopwatch. Okay.
okay. My name is Moses. I was raised a Christian, and then I converted to Islam, and then through my studies, it led me to leaving Islam. The more I delved into Sufism, and then as I became more enlightened, I got into things like the occult sciences, paranormal, and scientific empirical study, and then no longer could remain under the Abrahamic, Christian, biblical, or Islamic, Quranic religious faiths. I would describe myself now as an animist. An animist is the word anima. Anima is Latin from the word breath, spirit, life. An animist is the belief that objects, places, and creatures all possess a distinct spiritual essence. Animism perceives all things, animals, plants, rocks, rivers, weather, systems, human handiwork, in some cases words, as being animated, having agency and free will. Animism is the anthropology of religion and is a term for the belief system of many indigenous peoples, in contrast to the relatively more recent development of organized religions. Animism is a metaphysical belief which focuses on supernatural universe, specifically, or the concept of the immaterial soul. So I would describe myself as an animist now. The culture the system that most impresses me is the religion of the pharaohs, or the system of the pharaohs. So if I was going to deal with anything, I'll deal with the pharaonic system, mainly the principle of Thoth or Tahuti, which is also known as in Greek Hermes, or Hermes Trismegistus, 3 times great Hermes. And I will leave it there.
That's perfect. I really appreciate that, Moses. Very interesting journey. I love to unpack that on another show, but that is very fascinating. So, brothers and sisters, you heard Moses speak there. Very interesting, like I mentioned. Now, 2 minutes to our brother Abdullah. Brother, as soon as you start speaking, I will start the timer.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, who is most gracious and most merciful, we thank Allah for sending guidance to mankind through all the prophets and sending books of guidance to mankind. My name is Abdullah Muhammad. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, born and raised from a Christian background, reverted to Islam, and I met Moses at Speaker's Corner. We started out a conversation. The conversation ended beautifully. We exchanged numbers. After that, we had a chat about a week after, and the chat was very, very productive. And from that conversation we had that was productive, it was hugely about the support that the Muslims get, the revert Muslims receive, particularly Black Muslims receive. What kind of support was that? And it also opened an opportunity for us to discuss what Islam can offer the Caribbean people, the Black people, and largely what Islam has to offer. So Islam Exposed, really, it's about what Islam has to offer and questioning the various aspects of Islam to be a religion that is best for mankind. And my main intentions here in this conversation is really to demonstrate that Islam is the best option for humanity. I receive Islam coming from the Caribbean, coming from a Black, poor community, and what Islam has done for me. And I'm also a witness to see how other Black people come into Islam, their experiences. And I would like to share that for conversations and seeing how can we benefit, particularly the Black community coming from the Caribbean.
Awesome. There you go, brothers and sisters. These are opening introduction of their statements and who they are and what the background is. And inshallah, now we're actually going to start the formal aspects of the debate. Moses will have 10 minutes opening statements. This is going to be the first of his 10 minutes, and Abdullah will have 10 minutes, and then we're going to do another 10 minutes and 10 minutes. Then we're going to have a very interesting gap in this discussion where each side will have 5 questions given to them and vice versa. Then there will be 10 minutes back and forth discussion like we saw at Speaker's Corner, and I actually thought that was very fruitful. And then from there, it'll be 5 minutes ending remarks, and then we're going to open it up to the audience for a Q&A. But Q&A is going to be really interesting. Why? Because if you can donate towards super stickers and super chats, that income will go to a project that Brother Abdullah just mentioned to me off stage. So any donations will go to Brother Abdullah with the project that he's planning to do, and that's all I'm going to say. Is still in the pipeline. So any donations, please send them via super chat or super stickers, and inshallah those donations will be given to Brother Abdullah for the project that he'll be doing, inshallah ta'ala. So barakallah feekum. I think we just lost Moses. I think he's trying to share screen. Moses, are you okay, brother?
I'm good.
Yeah, he's there.
We just lost you for a second. So can you hear me okay?
I'm good. I can hear you.
So, yeah, perfect. So as soon as you start speaking, Brother Moses, your 10 minutes will begin.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so in relation to Islam and reverts, especially from the Afro-Caribbean community, I found it was a bit challenging because first and foremost, I was converting to a religion and I didn't have a spiritual, I didn't have a mentor or a guide. And what's so interesting about Islam, it being one of the fastest growing religions, second biggest religion on the planet, is that the world of Islam is so diverse. It's so vast. Over 1 billion now today, 1.9 billion and counting. And often one finds, especially in this country, where does one go to get Islamic dawah? How does the dawah practiced? And I often found people was very segregated even within Islam. You had the Bangladeshi community over there. You had the obviously Pakistani community over here. You had the Arab community over there. You had the different certain like tribal groups in their own respective positions, practicing Islam but having their own traditional or approach method to Islam. And I found it was a bit challenging for me. I was either amongst Arabs and I thought myself becoming Arabized, or I was amongst Pakistanis. I didn't really know what they were doing. I was amongst Bangladesh. I didn't really know what they were doing. I didn't really find a place. And what was clear was that there wasn't really an African Islamic knowledge of self or empowerment. I couldn't find it within Britain. And this was a time when Islam was going through a lot of exposure. You know, during the time of the Iraq War, when they invaded Iraq, then you had a lot of certain interesting characters over here. They hadn't suppressed Islam yet in Britain in that sense. You still had groups like Al-Majroon and Ajam Chowdhury. You had people like Abu Hamza, Finsbury Park Mosque. You had Brixton Mosque, Finsbury Park Mosque. You had the big mosque in Regent Park. But there was a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, so-called Islamic information being put out there by all different types of scholars and clerics. And it's just very difficult. One didn't know who to follow, who to tune into, and who to out-tune. I couldn't really make a decision. And it would be hard for any revert coming into a faith as vast as Islam to know who's correct and who isn't. And when you're still developing, people are making an impression on you. So obviously I was impressed by the characters that I could remember, which was Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. I watched the movie Malcolm X, the famous one when Denzel Washington played Malcolm X. It was directed by Spike Lee. It impressed me. But they were the Nation of Islam. So I started to attend the Nation of Islam services. I know the Nation of Islam in the UK very well. It would be the minister, the head of the European chapter of the Nation of Islam in Europe, which is Minister Hilary Mohammed or Abdul Hakim Mohammed. And I know Leo Mohammed very well. So I started to follow some of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I attended some of the services that the Nation of Islam had in the UK. But even they were struggling as such to kind of convey their ideas into the black British community. For some reason, I don't know, they didn't have a way of, their method of how they spread their dawah wasn't very constructive for black British people. A lot of their guidance came from America via Minister Louis Farrakhan, and Minister Louis Farrakhan has been banned from Europe and the UK. So so Nation of Islam, being an African American organization, they haven't got any experience with on the ground in the United Kingdom. So maybe obviously they thought that it was just transferable to put the information from America to the UK, but it's not so simple, especially if it's a geographic terrain that you're unfamiliar with as an African American. So I just saw certain things that was, amongst, Nation of Islam in the UK that wasn't, that was, although it was good for me, it still couldn't, something was missing. So the way they was conveying their dawah still couldn't, amongst the but I benefited and how to organize certain organize my ideas, and I found them very helpful, but a bit rigid, because they take strict orders from the top, and my mind was expanding. I had questions that rigidity wasn't gonna help me psychologically at that time. So what I started reading more. I started to look into Islamic mysticism. I came across groups like Nawabians, who were their founder was a man called by the name of Dr. York, and they were an Islamic black organization group. I started listening to some of their teachings, and I attended some of their classes, and I knew them very well. But at the same time, I found them more. I was very impressed by them, but they're an African American organization, and the chapter over in the United Kingdom is more like a bookstore as opposed to an actual spiritual group. I didn't find them as a group that one has a lifestyle. I found them more like a bookstore that had very advanced, a very powerful knowledge, but not. I don't know how much of that one could apply to their life as a lifestyle. Reading from a book and then having a lifestyle is two different things, if that makes sense. So what I found myself doing is then, okay, cool. I was impressed by Sufism, and I came across a very impressive Sufi Islamic individual in history. For those who don't know what Sufism is, it's the mystical dimension of Islam, and a character that stood out to me within Islamic Sufi history is a man by the name of Dal Nun al-Maziri, who was a Nubian Egyptian, and was considered one of the greatest Sufi mystics and one of the greatest men that ever walked the earth. I started to look into the teachings of Sufism. I sought out Sufi mystics. I sought out Sufi prominent characters like Jalaluddin Rumi, and I just stuck on a Sufi. I stuck on a Sufi type path, and it's the only thing that kind of made sense. But the more I stuck with Sufism and explored the Sufi, it also took me into some other places. I'm moving a bit quick because I'm overlooking the fact that I looked into Christian, but Coptic Christianity was very impressive to me. And for some reason, I took to Coptic. I went to the Coptic church over here in London. I was fascinated with Coptic and Coptic Christianity, Coptic teachings. The Coptic approach to Christianity was very impressive to me, especially the Ethiopian and the Eritrean branch of Christianity, that region where they've had ancient Christianity for thousands of years prior to the arrival of the Europeans in the 16th century. I was very impressed. I knew about Haile Selassie and the important role that he played during that time. I came across some Rastas who gave me an untold amount of knowledge. But yeah, I was with the Coptics. I used to attend their classes a lot, go to the churches a lot, and then I came across a man called Dal Nun, like I said, and Dal Nun is a Sufi, but he's more than a Sufi. Dal Nun looked into everything. He's a Sufi mystic, a respected Sufi mystic scholar, but he looked into Christianity. He was well versed in Christianity. He was well versed in Judaism. He spoke multiple language, and he was one of the only few men of his era that understood the language of the hieroglyphics. According to history and historians, he was said that he knew the knowledge of the hieroglyphics. He existed around, my knowledge, if my knowledge serves me, he existed around about, is it 9th or 10th century? So he played a very big role in my learning. And once I started to get more into, he was born in the year 859 AD. 859 AD.
11 minutes now, brother. Sorry to interrupt. That's 11 minutes now.
Okay. So let me just quickly round up. Yes. Reason why I came, when I went into Egyptology, not only because of Christian Coptics like Paha Labib, and who was a Coptic Christian, Egyptian Christian, and his father Claudius Labib, who was a Coptic Christian, and he looked into Egyptology. And Coptic is one of the last languages of the pharaonic hieroglyphics, but also Sufism. When you really look into Sufism, it was taking you back to the works of some of the ancient Egyptians, like Thoth, also known as Hermes, also known as Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Tahuti, who was the master scribe, grand master scribe. And I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Moses. That was 12 minutes, 3 seconds. And Brother Abdullah, as soon as you start speaking, your time will begin.
Just Jazakallah khair, for everyone who's part of the podcast and supporting it in a very positive way. Thank you so much, Moses, for sharing your experience. And it takes a lot of courage to share your journey and your experience. And I'm sure somewhere along the line, you will land in the best place you can. So looking at your experience, if we had a chance to rewind and go back in times, the question is, what kind of support would have been appropriate and suitable for you? Now, that's an important question that I think we need to have a conversation with. If we was to go back in times, someone like you coming to Islam, and there are many in the future in your situation coming to Islam, and they will see huge amount of sectarianism, they get a lot of confused, and there's the lack of support to reach out, embrace, and support you. As the word you mentioned before, mentor. There was no mentoring you from stage to stage. But what I want to say is primarily this. In the Black communities, many Black people like myself, not all, but many Black people like myself, who I have witnessed enter Islam, they struggle tremendously, huge amount of struggle. And it's very difficult, or might be unfair, to put blame for not giving them the kind of support and attention that they need. And because their struggle is very complex, it's hugely complex. So if you look at poor communities coming from the Caribbean, research will show that the primary influence to people stems from the home experience. That's the starting experience. It helps shape the perception, the psychology, the mentality, the behavior. So if you look at the home, we start with the home to really understand the people like Moses and many others to come. Let's look at their home struggles. They're born in a very poor families, many times broken homes, many times single parenting. And a young man would look for his father. His father may not be there. His father might be in jail. His father might be on drugs. Father might left the home. He may not even know his father. And other times he finds his father. He look at his father, and what does he see? A complete, wrecked, broken man. A man who is broken, he doesn't have purpose. A man who is in pain, so he take drugs. A man who do not like his job. A man do not like his home because he feels helpless to be able to support his home the way he would like to support his home. So the state of the father, the broken man, when that child look at the father and he see the state of the father, it breaks his heart. And then when the father is no longer there, he looks at the mother, and the mother is in pain. She have a bad relationship with her husband. The children is disorganized. The home is disorganized. Her emotions are out of control. And the poor woman, his mother, is in pain with emotions out of control. And there we see this is the state that many black men come to Islam with. Broken homes, no covenant, no loyalty, no principles, broken society, broken community, disorganized, drugs infested, bad politics between the family. And many times we come from families where our siblings treat us badly. Our parents doesn't treat us fairly. Sometimes the parents may favor the girls above the boys. And sometimes the parents may have a favorite among the children, and that favorite is not the best person. It's not the most just person. So they come into the world, shape into the world in a state of chaos, injustice, and confusion. And when they leave that world, they go out seeking what? Security, comfort, validation, acknowledgement. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be known. So they're seeking that. Sometimes they seek that in the wrong places. They seek that on the streets. That's problematic. They seek that from a woman. Sometimes that doesn't work out well. And they seek that in religion. And if they try to find these comforts in religion to solve that pain that they're experiencing, then they expect us to give them a new family, a new brother, a new father. So those of us who see young people come into the religion, we're supposed to be a bigger brother to them. And we need to be the father that they didn't have. And we need to be the mother that they didn't have. We need to be a mother means to say we have the tone of a mother. We have the caring of a mother. Because the caring of a mother and the caring of a father is two different. So sometimes we have to change that tone. And because the black man from the Caribbean come into Islam with so much of needs, so much of pain, and so broken, he come to be made whole again. But when he come to be made whole again, he walk into a similar chaos, very similar, with sectarianism, groups. He been ignored. And when he's ignored, that's like a punishment itself. That's another punishment. He feel devalued, disappreciated, no sense of purpose. And that sends him in a state of disappointment. He feel betrayed. He feel betrayed from his home. He run to religion, he feel betrayed. And his journey keep going until he go right into self-destruction. Either take drugs, he go on alcohol, and all these he seek is to kill the pain, to numb the pain that he's experiencing in his heart, in his feelings. He try relationships, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because a broken man entering a relationship, very likely it with a broken woman as well, then it's just a recipe for chaos. So the black man coming from the Caribbean, coming from many other parts of the world, when he entered into Islam, he didn't enter with a complete, he's not wholesome, he's broken. And he entered broken so that we collectively put him back together, put the parts back together. And this is why I could understand people who leave Islam and they leave Islam with a grudge. And they leave Islam with hatred and a grudge. And they shout and they have hatred and they consume huge amount of propaganda against Islam because they believe they've been betrayed by their family and by religion and by this. And they're knocking from pillar to post like a destitute, almost like a spiritual destitute. Without a father, without a brother, without a home, without a sense of belonging, without validation, and is very insecure. And I've witnessed this myself with so many black people coming to Islam. And as I said before, sometimes we accept Islam, we go among the Muslims, they'll ask you, what is your name? How old are you? Where are you from? Who is your mother? What do you do? What do you not do? What is this? And after you answer that question, they smile and they walk away. And that is another, that's another hand digging into the wound. And many times these broken men, these wounded individuals come into Islam and we just open their wounds unintentionally. And we have structures, many of us, the Asian community, the Bangladeshi community, the Pakistani community, all of them have the little clique going. And all of them have a little sense of belonging to people who are close than them. They get in the council, they bring their family in. They get in the hospitals, they bring their little family in. They all support the clique. They're going to get married, the best woman in the community, they'll give first preference to the family. So that happens. It doesn't mean to say something against us. It's not intended against us. It's just a human nature to serve yourself and your community and those close to you first. That tends to be, However, when that happens, there's an oversight. And the oversight is there's huge amount of people coming to Islam who are reverts. And they're hugely broken. They're wounded. They're spiritually damaged. They're open to satanic forces because whenever Shaitan sees you weak and depressed and he sees you vulnerable, he takes possession. It comes like someone saw a building and the building empty and it's insecure, no security in it, they take possession. And when people are broken like that, it's very easy for Shaitan to take possession because they have no protective mechanism against them. They don't have that resilience to fight shaitanic thoughts, inclination. They're weak, very vulnerable. And we're supposed to build them spiritually, give them purpose, give them morality, support them into building strong family life, extended family lives, and give that kind of attention. So I do understand Moses' journey, and many others like him. And the question for us today is, there will be many people coming to Islam from troubled background, from prisons, rehabilitating from drugs, from broken homes, single parenting, and all sorts of psychological scars, psychologically damaged. And the question is, our masjids prepared to give them that support? Is our dawah teams prepared to give them that support? Is the da'iyah, the du'ats who go out there, do they have that social understanding, that social awareness of who they're speaking to, or they're just concerned with raising their voices, lots of showing off, winning an argument instead of winning a heart, instead of saving a soul? And this is what sincerity breaks down to. Sincerity in dawah is not showing off, it's not glorifying yourself, it's not looking for plenty likes. Sincerity is about winning hearts. It's about exercising compassion. It's about learning
Abdullah,
who people are.
I'm sorry, but your time's
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So that was 11 minutes, 37 seconds. Reset the clock. So, brothers and sisters, you've heard very powerful opening statements from Brother Moses and, of course, from Brother Abdullah. Very interesting, very powerful, very thought-provoking opening 10 minutes. And now we'll be going back to another 10 minutes where Moses will have a chance to respond, and Brother Abdullah also likewise will have his second part of his 10 minutes. Just a quick reminder, I have got a Patreon link pinned in the chat. That is for the Dawah store that I do here in Coventry. I'm just asking or people can donate £1 a month, and that will help me get 3 Qur'ans, which I can distribute for free. So please go and hit the Patreon and donate £1 a month. I really would appreciate it. Barakallah feekum. Brother Moses, as soon as you start speaking, I will start the clock.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, nice and clear.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Beautiful dialogue, brother. Abdullah, I very much enjoyed what you said. what I find very interesting is everybody's got an experience. Every group has an experience. You got the British Asian experience. You got the, I don't know, British Polish experience. You got the British Russian experience. You got the British Gypsy experience, and then you got the British Black experience. And even then, the British Blacks, they break into subgroups like Nigerian or West African. Then you have the Caribbean, the Afro-Caribbean, etc. You got West Africa, you got East Africa, you got South Africa, and even then we get even to deeper, more nuances. For, you know, as a Black British people, we're not one homogenous group, which can be often overlooked. We fall into that mindset that, okay, we're all Black, so therefore, you know, therefore that it should, you know, things should just work, innit? One hat fits all for all Black British people, and that's not the case. We do have our own individualism within the so-called Black British sphere. We need to be more careful with these nuances, and we have to have programs set up not to exploit our division, but to bring together our division, to overcome it, so we can have a more harmonious communal experience. There's an interesting character in African Islamic history, and his name is Swarari. His name is, let me get his full name here. His name is he goes by the name of Swarari. Al-Haji Salim Al-Haji Swari Al-Haji, how do I say his full name? His full name is Al-Haj Salim Suwari, and he was a sheikh from the 13th century in West Africa. He belonged to a tribe called the Sonike, and he focused on the responsibilities of Muslim minorities residing in a non-Muslim society. This is a very powerful character in African Islamic history. He formulated an important theological rationale for peaceful coexistence with non-Muslims in the ruling classes, called the Swarari tradition, which survives to this day despite the pressures of modernism. This is one of the solutions that I was pondering on. And he says, Sheikh Swarari formulated the obligations of Duyula. Duyula is, there's another West African tribe, an ethnic group, and he goes, Duyula minorities residing across West Africa into something dubbed the Swarari tradition. It stressed the need for Muslims to coexist peacefully with unbelievers, because Islam came to West Africa at a time when some tribes converted, some tribes in West Africa didn't convert, and they remained in a paganistic society, worshipping their ancestors. And Swarari goes on to say, to justify a separation, he goes to justify a separation of religion and politics. The Swarari perspective for peaceful coexistence involved 7 major precepts. Number 1, unbelievers are ignorant, not wicked. Number 2, it is Allah that design. It is Allah's design that some people remain ignorant longer than others. Number 3, Muslims must nurture their own learning and piety and thereby furnish good examples to non-Muslims around them. so they will know how to behave when they are converted. Number 4, they could accept the jurisdiction of non-Muslim authorities as long as they had necessary protection and conditions to practice the faith in accordance with the Sunnah of the Islamic Prophet Muhammad. In this teaching, Sorari followed a strong predilection in Islamic political philosophy for any government, non-Muslim or tyrannical, as opposed to none. Where are we? Number 4. The military jihad was a resort only in self-defense. Okay, no, that's number 5. The military jihad was a resort only in self-defense if the faith were threatened. Number 6, Sorari discouraged dawah. This is very important. Sorari discouraged dawah, proselytizing, instead contending that Allah would bring non-Muslims to Islam in his own way. It was not a Muslim's responsibility to decide when ignorance should give way to belief. Very interesting. And number 7, Muslims must ensure that by their commitment to education and learning, they keep their observance of the law free from error. I find this very striking. This 7 main precepts from the West African sheikh of the 13th century, and I just found it very, very powerful. He belonged to the Empire of Mali, and he was Mali was a very multi-tribal, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious. All of the entire Mali Empire wasn't Islamic. Only the aristocracy was, and so they had many non-Muslim African indigenous and paganistic peoples within their empire. The size of Mali Empire at the height of its power was the size of the entire continent of Europe. That's what you're dealing with there, and so I find that they found a very interesting way to balance Islamic and non-Islamic peoples within their empire so that they could live side by side in a harmonious fashion. I also learned from Sufism characters like Dalnun al-Maziri and Jalaluddin Rumi that tolerance was very important. If you've noticed, when you go places like Speaker's Corner, you listen to a lot of debates. The Christian is not particularly tolerant, and the Muslim is not particularly tolerant. Their ethos is, or angle or objective is rooted in my religion is right and everybody else is wrong. And those are not the people that schooled me. Those are not the scholars that schooled me. They did not preach I am right and everybody else is wrong. That's not what they taught. And there were so many who taught tolerance and coexistence. You understand what I'm saying to you? Whether it be the Sufi mystics I've spoken of already, and whether it be characters like Ahmed Yasawi, whether it be there's so many different Ahmed ibn Ajiba. There's so many, Abdullah Qadir Jilani. It's just too many. There's too many to list that people taught coexistence and tolerance and living peaceful and coexisting with others, as opposed to trying to teach or preach, proselytize from an angle of I'm right and you're wrong. So I didn't gravitate well towards those who was coming with that type of objective. And there were people was very in Islam, people was very divided. Don't sit down with the non-believer. Don't sit down with the kuffar. Don't take the kuffar as your friend. And I said, no, that wasn't what I was taught. That wasn't what Islam had taught me. And that's not what the direction I was schooled to go in. And so I found myself looking at Islam going in a dangerous direction, and I was like, this is why I get off this train, because I saw it. I saw the Islamic Ummah heading in a direction that was going to be self-destructive. Otherwise, I would have been more willing to obviously stick with Islam, but then again, my teachings of Sufism led me out of Islam to a character in ancient Egypt called Thoth, also known as Tahuti, also known as Hermes Trismegistus. How much time do I have?
That's 10 minutes 55. I'll just let you finish off your final sentence, and then we can pass the mic on to Abdullah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, my studies have been long, tiresome, but they've been well worth it, and they've been something that has kept me grounded against the turning tides of social politics that can be very overwhelming.
Okay, Abdullah. Moses, that's 11 minutes 38. So we're going to pass the mic on for the second part of Abdullah's 10 minutes opening statements, and everybody else, please take note of the interaction in the chat. We are going to be respectful, polite, and dignified to our guests. So please, let's keep it pleasant in the chat. But so far, everybody seems to be on board with that. I really appreciate you, brothers and sisters. Brother Abdullah, as soon as you start speaking, your time will start.
Thank you very much again, Moses, for sharing those perspectives and what seemed to be very relevant to you, and what has touched your heart, and what you see to be a social crisis and obstacles of we making the world a better place. Now, my thing is this: your experiences, I have shared lots of your experiences, and many have shared your experiences. But when we look at our people, humanity as a whole, generally humanity, but we look at our people because this is where we come from. It's easy to see the people around you. So I can't talk a lot about the people in Russia. I can't talk a lot about the people in New Zealand. I can't talk a lot about the people in China. So I can, when I speak and I speak about the people around me, it's not because I'm excluding others. It's just, this is what forms my experience. It informs my experience. So I'm talking about our people who come from the Caribbean, the Black people, the brown people, the colored people. My community is in dire need of Islam. I want to make that very clear. Al-Islam. And I'm saying Al-Islam because Islam stands unique to all other ideologies, faiths, beliefs, and cult. It's very unique. And I would like to open the door for a second opportunity to defend this position and compare the Islamic purpose and solution towards the crisis that we live in today. We as Black people, me and Moses, we need discipline very bad. We really need discipline. We need purpose. We need salvation. And we're not going to get that salvation knocking on 100 different doors and touching on all the different philosophies in the world, because we may die in that process. If we want salvation, we have to make a covenant with God. We have to go to the source of all power, the all-knowing, the all-wise, the all-powerful. And there's no power can help us or save us except through his power. So if we as a people who is experiencing tremendous pain, I come from a broken home, single parenting, a poor community, a poor family, and I come from family politics. In my family, we have family politics. Issues. The women have their own power politics going on here, a pocket of power going on here. So I experience everything that I mentioned before. I am a first-hand testimony to that. I experienced that. But that's no excuse for me to abandon my covenant with God and to go on drugs, get into the criminal justice system, and to be knocking on pillow to post like a wandering wild animal. We as a people, we need to learn responsibility. We need to learn accountability. We need to learn purpose, forgiveness, reconciliation, purification. Islam fundamentally, when a person enters Islam, he enters Islam to clean himself up, to purify himself, to purify his soul. And that is a process of discipline, which I undergo and still undergoing, still learning and training and trying to purify myself. One of the purposes of Islam is to purify the individual, and to purify the individual to make a meaningful connection with God through a covenant with God. And that has responsibility, it has accountability. You have to learn forgiveness. And no other faith in the world could offer you a pure covenant of salvation like Islam. Islam offers that. And I'm simply saying Islam has the discipline, the purpose, and the salvation that our people need more than any other faith in this world. Hence the reason why I'm very keen, and I've always been keen, to listen to other people's faith, their beliefs, and to compare them with mine. And doing that, that has strengthened my faith. It has given me more conviction. And it has convinced me there's no ideology in this world that I know of, and I've traveled, I did a lot of traveling, that is as solid in its ideology for preserving, saving, purifying, and teaching that black man discipline that he need more than anybody else. So I said to you before, we have broken covenant. We broke our covenant with God. We come from broken homes. We come from broken societies, broken communities. We don't have leadership. We don't have language. We don't have a sense of belonging. We don't have culture. So we need this salvation. And this first step to salvation is making a covenant with God, that we acknowledge that he is the all-knower, the all-wise, he's our owner, he's our master, he owns us. And that if we submit to him, we acknowledge him, we serve him, everything will turn out in our favor in the end. That's the end game. So if you was to die in that process, Moses, you would die in a process, if you have a covenant, that you may not get all of this world that you want, but in the hereafter, you will get everything. So this is where my salvation, my contribution to this whole conversation is. If this, let's say this podcast was to finish now, the most important point is that our people need a covenant with God. And they can go everywhere else. If they avoid that covenant with God, they will never see salvation. They will never be united. They will never learn. They will never understand. They will never better themselves until they have that covenant. And a lot of people who have problems with Islam is not the problem they have with Islam. They have problem with discipline. They believe if I become a Muslim, I have to give up smoking. I have to give up drinking. I have to give up doing whatever I want, and I have to start doing what Allah wants. And I am worshiping a God called the God of freedom. I want the freedom to do what I want. Islam is not complicated. It's very, very, very clear. It's very clear. What is very complicated is that the human being don't want discipline. You don't want rules. You don't want Allah. And this is why in the Bible it says, and they do not hate you. In the book of Isaiah, they hate that you govern over them. Similar to the Quran, Allah says in Quran, they do not hate you, they hate the ayats of Allah. They don't want to be governed by God. That's what mankind is resisting. Mankind is resisting. He don't want God to legislate and order him how he should live. He wants freedom to do as he likes because he doesn't have discipline. Islam is easy for a person who have discipline. Islam is easy for a person who loves justice. Islam is easy for a person who is honest. Islam is easy for a person who is logically consistent. Islam is easy for that person. If a person finds difficulty with Islam, it's because he's logically inconsistent. He have a problem with Islam because he doesn't have discipline. I've met them all. I've debated with them all. They don't have the discipline. And Islam represents discipline. People will see you, they hate you because you represent a discipline. They see you going to the masjid 5 times a day. They see you loyal to principles. They see you have a leader, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's our leader. They see you have order, and you have structure, you have rules and principles that governs the way you live. And because they don't have that, they start envying you. And out of envy, they will jump on any bandwagon with propaganda in order to invalidate you. And I'm saying we have to come off of that. We cannot join those bandwagons. We cannot do that as a people. As me and you have some shared experience and common background and history, we have to acknowledge, me and you, Moses, me and you, I'm speaking to you, me and you, that we need to learn responsibility, accountability. We have to learn purification. We have to learn reconciliation, forgiveness, and we have to reconnect with the covenant with God. That's what we need. And if we don't accept these needs, then we will do like what our leaders do. Our leaders mislead us, telling us, it's not your fault. You're evil because of colonialism. You're evil because of the Jews. You're evil because of the white man. You're evil because of this. You're evil because of that. And if you believe that, we will never change. We will never take responsibility and accountability for our actions. We have to accept responsibility. We have to learn accountability, reconciliation, forgiveness, and purification. And this is what Islam offers the black man in order to elevate him.
Okay, that's 9 minutes, 50 seconds. Would you like to say anything in the last couple of seconds, Abdullah, or are you happy with that?
No, I would like to open the conversation for us to debate and talk about the covenant that man has with God and why man is always breaking that covenant. And all those who break the covenant with God, look at what happened to them. They always end up worse. Everybody who I see broke the covenant with God, they always end up worse. They end up on the side of the road taking drugs, in jail, always end up worse. They never end up better. Killing themselves, suicide. I've never seen anybody who break the covenant with God and end up better. They always end up worse. Because in Islam, there's one last point. We as Muslims, you go to a masjid and they introduce you to Islam. They show you how to wash yourself, make wudu. And they show you when you go to the bathroom, you wash your front and your back. When you leave Islam, are you going to say, I leave Islam, I hate Islam, Islam is no good for me, I will not clean myself. I'll just be a little nasty bugger? That don't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. So anything that contradicts Islam is logically inconsistent.
Okay, Abdullah, thank you. Now I think it's going to get quite fiery, brothers and sisters. This part here is a crossfire where 5 questions will be asked to each interlocutor here. So Moses will ask 5 questions, one at a time, of course. And I'm hoping 1 minute it will probably take Brother Moses to ask the question. But Abdullah is quite in his rights to ask Moses to maybe unpack the question a bit more so the question is understood. And Abdullah, likewise, you'll get 2 minutes to respond to the question. If Moses asks for any further response from your response, you'll be given a couple of more seconds to kind of like clear up the response and the answer. I hope that's pretty fair and pretty clear. So we're going to do a crossfire section now, brothers and sisters. And Moses, as soon as you start speaking, your minute will begin.
Okay, so are we going to do question for question, yeah?
Yes, Moses, yeah.
Okay. So my first question is, Islam and race. What role does the black man play within the Islamic world? And do we need to seek reparations from the Arabs for participating in the Arab slave trade that caused a lot of problems to the African black man and woman? How do we reconcile how do we reconcile our uneasy past with the Arabs who once upon a time used to be participants within the Arab slave trade from Africa to Eastern Europe?
Okay, Abdullah, I'm not going to, if whenever you want to respond, feel free to respond, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, I was expecting questions particularly that has to do with the salvation, the saving of souls and life. I thought those questions would come specific to salvation, the discipline, responsibility, accountability, responsibility, purification. How can we get these principles to reach hearts and minds within our community? I was expecting much more of that. However, let me lay this thing down very thick regarding slavery. In 1500s, in the early 1500s, we have the transatlantic slavery in the 1500s. And the atrocities, the brutal atrocities of the transatlantic slavery represent the word slavery. So whenever our people hear the word slavery, the first thing come to our mind as a reference of what slavery is the transatlantic slaves. Yeah, that's one thing. But number one now, the other aspect now is when you look at Arabs who had slaves. Arabs didn't have slaves in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't encourage slavery. He born in a society in which he met slavery. And the Arab slavery was very different to the transatlantic slave trade. What is the difference? Is this. I'll tell you this. Arabs will fight, one tribe will fight another tribe. One will defeat another tribe. And when you defeat the other tribes, you get captives, you get stock, and you get whatever remains from those whom you defeat. And those possessions and people, these captives, are called slaves because there was no prison system. So if you capture people from a war, there's no prison system. These people are under your authority. So because you win the war, they're under your authority. They don't have the freedom as they had before. Because if we fight war, you either die. If you fight on a losing side, you lose your freedom. You become subservient. Sorry?
That's 2 minutes.
All right. So give me half a second. You become subservient to the one who win the war. And that happened from Muslim side, as that was just across the board. So I don't want to go long, but one important point I want to say is that the Arabs did not have a slavery like the transatlantic slavery. I would like to expand more on this topic, but I need to stop here now. Yeah.
Okay, Moses, your second question. Go ahead, brother.
My second question is, do we need to have African teachers, African Islamic scholars to address to address Black African or Black British or African or Black people's problems in order to boost our self-esteem, whether it be intellectually, whatever, just to boost our intellectual, emotional, cultural, historical self-esteem? Do we need Black scholars, Black Islamic scholars, to empower ourselves, as opposed to scholars from, I don't know, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Arabia? Do we need our own Black scholars, or who are rich in Islamic literature?
Well, our needs will be served by those who are fully competent. So if we go to a hospital, we're going to do eye surgery or brain surgery, we ask the doctors who are the most competent person to deal with the issue. So whatever issue, whatever needs our community have when it comes to saving souls and saving lives, the responsibility is upon those who are most qualified. Now, we don't hate people because of their color. Obviously, we're too intelligent for that. We don't run skinhead politics. We don't play that game. We're intelligent people. So it's not the skin or the color of the skin, but it's the competence, the sincerity, and righteousness. Righteousness is not is a monopoly by one group of people. You cannot say it's only Black people could be righteous. Because if you go back to Egypt and Pharaoh, you'll find some of the most tyrannic pharaohs were black people. So the question about this black and this black have a context in this conversation because we are black and we come from a community predominantly that look like us and we know our people, so we talk about that. But when it comes to looking at solutions and when it comes looking at righteousness and purification, we want services by the most competent. So if you're going to do an eye surgery for your mom and you have a black doctor who's a junior doctor and you have a senior doctor who might be an Arab or Asian or otherwise or Jewish, we want the most competent. And sincerity doesn't carry a color. Sincerity is a matter of the heart, and the heart doesn't have that kind of color. So I'm thinking as a logical, intelligent individuals, we want solutions by those who are most competent. Competence is usually not the color.
Okay, Moses, go ahead, number 3.
Should we marry within our own racial group, or should we practice miscegenation, mixing? Should we keep it within the? Should we marry black, or should we entertain the idea of mixing, marrying somebody because you love them, not because based on color?
I think you know the answer to that. You could marry somebody of your same color and wreck your life. That's number one. And you could marry somebody of a different color and it could work out. But the question is, marriage is very important, very, very pertinent. Who you marry, what type of person you marry, it's very, very important for your success and moving forward. And we have to understand in marriage, there's something called bloodline in marriage. And if you're married from a bloodline that is problematic, and you come from a problematic bloodline, and you marry from that same bloodline, what you're going to produce? So, for example, if I have a history, my family history going right back, we have some weak DNA that we are susceptible to drugs. The slightest problem we take drugs. And then you go to marry a woman, you look at her aunties, you look at her uncle, you look at her grandmother, you see a weak DNA where they're always susceptible to drugs and mental health. You're going to marry into that because you have the same complexion? And I'm simply saying it's very important who you marry, because bloodline can be very predictable in understanding the outcomes of marriage. Bloodline, very, very important. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that people married for 4 different reasons. One of them, they married for bloodline, lineage. They married for wealth. They married for beauty. But the best marriage is to marry for righteousness. You marry somebody with a pure heart is righteous. And in some cases, your own might be good. In some cases, your own may not do you any good. It's just going to reproduce, Yeah.
Okay. Brother Moses, your 4th question.
Should we only buy from? Should we shun the kafar, infidel enterprises, and only buy from Islamic related businesses, and only spend our money with Islamic related businesses, only buy Islamic related attire and clothing, and shun the means of the non-believers in order to strengthen the financial economy of the Ummah and empower the group of which one comes from? Or should one be free to spend their money in however means they please without any type of religious cultural concern? Should we be concerned with what we do with our money and where we spend it?
Buying from your so-called own, that's a kind of Pan-Africanist economic agenda. Pan-Africanism go on that. Islam is very different. Many Muslims who became Muslims, they became Muslims historically due to trade. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he traded with people from different faiths. And trade is universal. While at the same time, if a particular group of people, whether they're believers or they're not believers, doesn't make a difference. But if they're perpetuating evil and they're using your money to perpetuate that evil, and if you do not trade with them, it will slow down or stop the evil, as what they do in, the case of Zionism, the boycott Zionists, then that's an option. That's an option available. But to say Muslims do not trade with non-Muslim, kuffar, and all this kind of thing, that's not an Islamic view. It has not been precedented by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Prophet Muhammad traded with multiple different people, but there are exceptional circumstances like that with Zionism. If you give them your money, then that money will work against you. Then that is something exceptional. That's an exceptional case. And all this thing about kuffar, as you rightly say, all black people are not the same, all kafir are not the same. Because the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the first hijrah to Abyssinia, it was an Abyssinian king who was Christians. They give shelter and refuge to the Muslims. So when it comes to common good or shared good, I think we as a religion, we work with other people beautifully. Islamic history proved that.
Okay, your final question, Moses. Go ahead.
My last question is, if one is being mistreated and abused, and we find ourselves in the land of whose culture is against us. If, for example, if I'm a Muslim and I'm in a land of a kafar, if I'm mistreated, abused, politics is against me, racism, unemployment, I have to play down my identity in order to fit in. And I have challenges with assimilating and integrating into the society that does not respect my culture. I suffer from psychological, emotional, and internalized racism because of the passive-aggressive tactics used by the ruling class, who has an agenda to keep people like me down, who want to mistreat me and miseducate me financially. Should the believer or the person in question, should they move to another part of the world in order to establish a nation along their own cultural identity, or move to a country which already reflects their culture and identity for their own sake, of their family? Basically, like the Jews were being oppressed in Europe, they went off and they created the nation of Israel in Judea so they can practice Judaism free from anti-Semitism. If one is undergoing that type of intense racism, abuse, should one make a move to another part of the world which is conducive and supportive of one's culture, heritage, and identity, where you can go to school which reflects who you are as a person, as opposed to stay in the UK where you're going to continue to undergo this type of passive-aggressive racism, mistreated in schools, denied education, denied your own knowledge of self-education, and denied the right to open or to borrow money from the bank, which is called redlining. Should one take up the means of self-repatriation to another part of the world?
That is a personal decision. Everyone's choices and situation is different. So if you live in a land and you're stifled and suffocated, then you should remove yourself from that situation to make you more easier to practice. However, this world, this globe belongs to God. And those who live in it, we are just temporary custodians of it. And this is a globe, it's a global world, and it have loads of traveling and movement. So just like the flag issue that is happening now, these things happen, and part of these things happening is really driving this kind of message: leave this country, you're not welcome here, leave this country. So it's two things. It's a personal decision. If you want to travel to make your situation better, that's fine. You can travel. But the other side of it is that this globe belongs to God. God owned this globe. This is his house. He made this. And we are allowed to live wherever we want to live and has the freedom to serve him, the United Kingdom is a beautiful place for a person who wants to serve God. I don't see nothing. I've been living here for a very long time. I've not seen anything that really stop you from serving God, from gaining knowledge, from worshiping. I've not seen that. But it's a very good, interesting topic, and my answer to it, the long and the short, is a personal choice. If you feel that when you want to travel, travel. The whole world belongs to God. Yes.
Okay, that was the end of the first 5 questions by Brother Moses. Just a quick reminder, brothers and sisters, all super chats or super stickers, donations will be given to Brother Abdullah for his project that he'll undertake in Africa for a masjid and water well and much, much more, orphanage. So any donations from today's show will be given to Abdullah bi'iznillah ta'ala. And also please go to my Patreon. Please, if you're able to donate £1 a month for me to purchase free Quran and free literature, which I actually give out to the members of the public here in Coventry, that will be much appreciated. So without further ado, Brother Abdullah, your beginning of your questions. So first questions to Brother Moses. If you leave your camera on, Moses, that would be fantastic. Or are you comfortable with just keeping your camera off?
No, I'm good.
Good.
I don't have a lot of questions for Moses, but what I would like to do is ask him to engage me in a particular topic. And that topic is 2 things. We saving ourselves and we saving our community. Moses is a young man and he's been through a lot. He has some experience. He had a journey. Wherever he's in his journey may not conclude yet. So I don't want to force you into a conversation like that. But I would like both of us together to contribute towards the understanding of what can make our communities a better community. And in doing that, what might be your difficulty, your challenge with Islam presenting itself from the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad in its purest light, saving our community. So my thing is, can we have a conversation of what exactly can save our community from drugs, broken homes, lack of leadership, disunity, dysfunctional family, recidivism, going in prison over and over and over, always under the criminal justice system. And we have the far right now trying to use us as a scapegoat to create hatred in our society. So my thing is, what would be your contribution now? Because this is about saying Islam has a solution for the black man, for the poor, for the Caribbean and others. But we're talking about our people because we come from a common shared background. So my question is, what would be that solution? And whatever is that solution, what would be your problem seeing Islam being the solution for the issues that our people has?
It's a good question. I mean, statistically, you got about, give or take, 1 billion black people around the planet. Half of the black race is Islamic. The other half of the black race is Christian. So we are shaped. The black experience, basically what I'm trying to say, the black experience on this planet today is shaped by Abrahamic religious systems. You know, everything else is just a derivative or a spin-off. Whether some people calling them Rasta, some people calling themselves Hebrews. It's really and truly, it breaks down to two major religions: the Christian and the Muslim, the Bible and the Quran.
Okay.
Islam plays a major role and can play a major role in reforming the black man and black woman. I wouldn't say I'm going to put my energy into trying to convert non-black people to Islam because they might just be too rooted in their Christian faith. But what one can do is have interfaith dialogue and a relation between the biblical blacks and the Islamic blacks to come together at the round table to discuss how way they could move forward. I mean, just because you got Russian Orthodox Christians and then you have Russian Muslims doesn't mean that Vladimir Putin sits down and says, okay, let's start civil war amongst Russians because we don't have the same faith. No. He says to himself, we are Russian, we are a nation, we are a people, and we have to do what we can to coexist. We have to become religiously mature. We have to learn each other's ways. I spoke earlier about coexistence and tolerance, and I use characters, scholars like Jalaluddin Rumi. I use there was a time in Andalusia, Moorish Spain and Portugal, where they had something that they called convivencia, which means living together or coexistence. And for 700 years in Muslim Spain, Portugal, the Islamic, the Christian, and the Jew lived in relative peace. There was no war between.
Moses. That's 3 minutes now, brother.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So they all lived together. They all lived together peacefully for 700 years in Moorish, Islamic Spain and Portugal. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, right? I'm kind of done with some levels of unity. But the first unity we have to unite upon is the truth, right? We have to unite upon the truth. And every human being was born with some kind of nature, inclination to know the truth. You want to know your parents, you want to know your grandparents, you want to know why is this and how is this and the origins of this and the origins that we want to go to the source of truth. So the question is, there's only one meaningful unity, and that meaningful unity is to know the truth. Now, Christianity does not, modern day Christianity does not represent the Abrahamic faith. Modern day Christianity is dominated, it's a European version of what Jesus was from Galilee, Palestine today. He was from there, and modern day Christianity is much a European version of that. So the question is, even if we have to discuss religion, we have to discuss Islam, or where the boundaries meet, we have to have some kind of loyalty to truth. And it's not loyalty about winning your group, partisan, Hizbiyah, it's not that kind of loyalty, like what we see in Speaker's Corner. It's about loyalty to the truth. And Christianity, as you already know, today has been compromised. It adopted modernization, it accepted LGBTQ, it have accepted almost majority of the modern trends today. So long time ago, ancient Christianity, you would never see a woman going to church with a short skirt or going in a church and jumping high, and you're not sure if you're in a party or if you're in a church. So I'm saying in many cases, it does not represent the Abrahamic faith. But I'm quite happy to embrace exactly what you're saying, to call Christians back to understand what faith does Abraham represent? What faith does Solomon represent? What faith and belief that Moses represented? What faith and belief, morals and principles Jesus represent? I'm quite happy to have that conversation in order for us to unite with the truth. But superficially, accepting modern day Christianity as it is today and saying this is part of the Abrahamic faith, it doesn't align with truth, because modern day Christianity have accepted all the trends that is against God.
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. In one sentence, what is the question? Because you did say a lot. I don't want Moses to be overburdened. So, what, in a nutshell, what is the question, please? Can you repeat it?
The question I asked was.
No, what Brother Abdullah mentioned right now. I'm asking Abdullah, just in a nutshell, just repeat the question, because that was like 2.5 minutes, and I didn't want to overburden Moses with all that information. So
right. Yes. I was responding to the statement whereby Moses said, he talks about the statistics of the black population in the world, and he divided that into two, the Islamic version and the Christian version, and they're all governed by the Abrahamic. So I'm challenging that, not challenging you, my apologies, I'm challenging that narrative to say that the modern day Christian does not represent the Abrahamic faith. They do not. And I'm also challenging the idea of Putin says we're all Russians, so then black people should say we're all black people and just let's get along. You do what you want, I do what my thing, you have your belief, I have my belief, let's all get along. I'm challenging that because that does not seem to underline the core principle of the human nature, which is to find the truth and to be loyal to the truth. And the truth is, first truth is, the Christian world today has been modernized by liberalism, and they have accepted every new trend by the trendsetters, which is against the ways of God, against the teachings of God. So I'm challenging that view. And I'm also challenging the view that all of we, because we're black, we all united. I'm challenging that because the first set of unity we have to do is unite upon the truth. If we train ourselves and our people and our heart and our mind that whenever the truth presents itself, we must accept it, even though it comes from our enemies, even though it comes from somebody we don't like. That's my contribution towards the statement that he made.
Okay.
I think, is he frozen?
I think he is frozen.
No?
Moses,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
back on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was frozen a little bit here. So in moving forward, if we are allowed to move forward, the question I was really trying to engage in jointly, we can talk about a topic jointly, is what is really important in saving our people from running in and out of prison, high on drugs all the time, broken family, broken homes, cannot settle. And I'm saying Islam is the solution to the black man. It's the best solution. It's the best option. And if I am saying that, is anything in that makes you comfortable, or do you know of a system that is better for giving our people discipline, purpose, salvation, accountability, responsibility, better than Islam?
Okay. Go ahead, Moses.
Islam has been, I'll be very honest with you, Islam has been successful in giving people grounding and stability. It has.
Disciplining.
Like I was saying before, I'm a great believer in Sheikh Salim Al-Hajj Suwari, and one of his seven, he's got what you call the Suwarian tradition. And one of his 7-point program was that one should not proselytize. He was against this. Suwari discouraged dawah and proselytizing, instead contending that Allah would bring non-Muslims to Islam in his own way. It was not a Muslim's responsibility to decide when ignorance should give way to belief. So I kind of respected that. As far as if a person wants to join a faith, he or she will within their own time, or she or he won't if it's not written in their destiny.
So in terms of a conversation, right? In terms of a conversation, if somebody's going over a precipice, right? They're going over a precipice. We shouldn't tell them, don't do it. Somebody's going to hell. Somebody's on drugs. We don't have a responsibility to save lives. So if dawah, we shouldn't give dawah. What was the mission of all the prophets? The mission of all the prophets was to save souls and to save lives. Save souls in the material, in the spiritual sense, and save lives in the physical sense. So the question is, I don't know who Sorori is, but I'm simply saying, logically speaking, I'm happy. I appreciate. If I'm driving my car, somebody saying, hey, it's a pothole there. Don't do that. Bro, don't take that. Don't drink that. There's alcohol in that. Don't do that. There's pork in that. Don't do that. So the question is, we always need, every human being needs a reminder, an advisor, a mentor, a guide, a spirituality. We need that kind of over us. So if you say don't give dawah, God will do it. The question that doesn't sit well with me from a logical point of view, and it doesn't sit well with me from a Quranic point of view, because Allah sent multiple prophets and message to guide mankind, to save mankind, and human being needs that guidance. We need it.
Abdullah, we'll let Moses respond. That was your fourth question. Remember, we have got 10 minutes each to have a nice discussion, so save your thoughts for that, Abdullah, but we just want questions right now. So that was the fourth question. Go ahead, Moses.
Okay, I would say, obviously, if one becomes popular enough, famous enough, or one becomes in a position where people seek your counsel, they seek your advice, not you going out looking for them, but they come to look for you. Or if you believe in being on the putting yourself out there with a stall to kind of engage with the general public, as you see some people do, and then by all means, if that's what is inside you. But if you become recognizable enough and people seek your counsel, it's like you're a conduit for information and guidance. And if you bring them, and if you have a program which is available for them to get reformed, to build their life, coming out of prison, coming off drugs, they want to escape a gang, which I'm all for, yes, then by all means that you have a program to try to improve their situation and help give counsel and mentorship so that they don't backslide into their old habitual ways. But that means you'd have to have the resources to tackle those issues, financial resources and, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. I get your point, yeah.
Your final question, Brother Abdullah, and then we're going to move on to back and forth.
Yes, my thing is this, right? Our people are suffering. They're committing suicide all at once or slowly. And there has to be an outreach.
That's right.
Hand that is stretching out that olive branch, hand that stretch out to reach them. Many people who knock on doors to help people, you knock on a door, you ask somebody, how you doing, neighbors, whatever, you come to realize the person was about to kill themselves. People give testimony that people give them dawah. They was about to kill themselves. Somebody knock on the door, talk to them and change their mind, and they have a great life. They have wife, they have children now because someone knocked on your door. We always need knocking on the doors. But I'm also making it quite clear, and I probably shouldn't repeat myself, is that all of the prophets, that Sururi guy who said that, I'm not sure what his context is, but all of the prophets had an outreach approach. Now, if he has a business and you want your business to flourish, how your business is going to flourish if people don't know? And how your business is going to flourish if you don't do an outreach approach to invite people towards your business? How do you know where the hospital is? Because every sign you go in where you live, the hospital is there. This is there. The train station is there. This is there. There's signs posted. That's why the Quran talk about sign posted. So we have to come out there and warn the people that they're into self-destruction and advise the people that they should return to the covenant of Allah, and that is what will save their souls, and that is what is going to save their lives. So I'm really not in alignment with that. But one of the things I do like how you admire this individual, and this individual appears to be a Muslim. You have a Muslim name. I do admire that you take your knowledge and information, and I see where that is going. But my personal view is that contradicts all the message of all the prophets before.
Okay.
They were all outreach.
2 minutes. That's 2 minutes. Yeah. Moses, your chance to respond. Go ahead.
It's a mighty task. It's a mighty task. Having to reform those who are mentally broken or in emotional trauma or going through hardship. And if one has the means and the resources to have the outreach program to carry out meaningful rehabilitation, which is obviously what your objective is, isn't it? You wanna reform, and you don't want the person in question to relapse into bad habits and etc. So it's a task of whether one has the means and resources to do it, and one is accessible to those who are in need. To put one, before you can put your name out there, you have to have the resources to be able to do it. So you know, you write down on your flyers, on your posters and your branding that you can reform those who are drug addicted, alcoholism, broken home, homeless, etc., etc. But you know, one has to be confident that one has the resources, and obviously you've only got a limited amount of time, money, and energy. So you can't, if you could only help 100, you can't take in 1,000, because that would just break you. So it's just like, it's a step by step until you become big enough and resourceful enough to be able to cope with the type of challenges that the Afro-Caribbean or Black British community presents.
I just want to share this point. Yeah, I'm with you. You're right. If we take responsibility and we are not fully equipped for it, we're going to break our back. We're going to hurt ourselves. So we have to be equipped. I just want to share something really important with you, and also for the listeners of this channel.
Brothers and sisters, now this is the 10 minutes now where you can speak to each other how you did previously at Speaker's Corner. So these 10 minutes now, you brothers can have a discussion, and I'm just going to listen, and the audience will listen. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, brother Mohammed.
Go ahead. Whoever wants to start, you got 10 minutes for back and forth.
You were saying something. You want to start, Abdullah?
I was saying to you is this. When I was introduced to Islam, and I started looking into Islam, one of the things I did, I visit masjids, a few masjids, and I spend a lot of time in them. One of the things I've observed is the regular washing, the call to prayer. You go to the toilet is completely different. It'll blow your mind. What is this? Hole in the ground. When you wash the front. When you do other stuff, you wash the back. And I was like, oh, this is different. But it reached me in a special way. I was like, yeah, I like that. When I sit into a masjid, the vibration that I got in a masjid was very unique. I couldn't get that experience nowhere else. I felt the presence of the angels. When I heard the call to prayer over and over, that thing reached me in a very spiritual way. And I believe if anybody go into a masjid and you spend a day or 1 day a week or 2 hours a week or 1 hour a week for 1 month, 4 hours a month, it will change your heart. It will influence you in a certain way, spiritual. So we're talking about this spiritual aspect because I know you're a spiritual man. I'm a spiritual man as well. People ask me how you come to Islam. My conversion to Islam wasn't all I read some book and I did some comparative analysis and I read this and no. My conversion to Islam was purely subjective and purely spiritual. When I see on Fridays how they dress, that reached me somewhere. Something in that is right. So that was connecting to, like, I had a preloaded information in my head. And when I see and experience this measured activity, it makes another connection. I was like, yes, something is right about this. But the atmosphere in a masjid, the presence of the angels, the prayer, the adhan, the iqamah, all these things were very, very positive for me. And I can guarantee anybody, if you give yourself a little time and spend some time in the masjid, you will have an experience. You wouldn't have that experience nowhere else. That's number one. And the other question I think we really should go into is that the black man, our people, all people, need spirituality. When I say spirituality could be divided into 3 parts. So there's a secular spirituality where there's no religion in it, meaning to say, you're in tune with nature, you like water, you're away from all materialism, you're not listening to music, the phone, you're just going to a very neutral space and you just absorb nature. You feel yourself, you get rid of all your thoughts, you offload, and you just go in complete peace. You totally offload. That's a secular, non-religious experience. So that's one form of spirituality. The other form of spirituality is where you have paganistic practices. Everything you do within that practice of spirituality is making connections with the jinns, the unseen world, and invoking the supernatural. Many times it's the shayateen. And the other form of spirituality is what the prophets teach, how to make a meaningful connection with God. by glorifying his name, by saying certain prayers in certain orders, that saying words that will summons the angels come and listen to these prayers. As if you read Surah Jinn, they say we listen to the Quran, and indeed we found it guides to something that is right. The jinns listen to it, the shayateen listen to it, the unseen world, the recitation of the Quran has an impact on the unseen world. Who is saying that? What is this about? So the question is, spirituality, we need spirituality, but we can't get spirituality because the chains is on our back. Music, drugs, the party, the phone, the materialism, the bling, the flex, the vanity. And the minute we let go those dead weight, then we will be able to elevate ourselves. So our people need a lot of spirituality, and we are drowning in paganism. Anytime we come together is a party. Anytime we come together is a music. Somebody die, alcohol is involved. We're trying to remember the dead, music and alcohol. And dude, in Trinidad, there are places sometimes they have a dead, somebody died, and they take alcohol and sprinkle it. They go to the grave, where it's a sacred place. You're going back to the Lord, and they throw alcohol. So we have some paganistic practices, yeah, that invite spirits. And as the Bible says, alcohol is a spirit. It is a spirit, and it invites spirits. So number one, I'm saying we need spirituality. And the spirituality I'm referring to is two types. We need to free ourselves from all forms of paganism, all right? And we need to free ourselves from the vanities of the world and go into neutral space, just offloading. And the other form of spirituality we need is the spirituality of what the prophets preach. You go into a masjid, you do the adhkar, the dhikr. You invoke God's presence. You invoke his name. You call on his might. You call on his power. You know, after the prayer, we say, Allahumma anta salam, wa minka salam, tabarakal yad jalali wal ikram. Allah, you are peace. You're the source of all peace. And from you comes peace. So we invoke his peace unto us. And not until our people start having these experiences, then we will be able to purify ourselves and then take the struggle forward. But the black man needs to purify himself. Come off of the drugs. Come off of all this jamming, stupid music. Come off of the showing off culture that we have. Everything is a showing off. A Jew make money, he hide his money. A black man make money, one spinning rims, a shiny car, and he can't even pay rent. Can't mind your children, but you want spinning rims, expensive, stupid Jordan, expensive Nike, and bling and glitter. We have to come off of that. So our people need spirituality. Our people need discipline. Our people need purpose. Our people need context. So, and the distraction from this is that we have identity crisis. We get obsessed. We get distracted with satanic distractions. So this is why I'm saying to you, my beloved brother, Moses, try to understand what I'm saying. I am a living experience of what I'm talking about. A lot of my experiences are subjective. Yes, I get that. But I'm willing to test the theory, test the claim that Islam, as it was 1400 years ago, if that same Islam come here, it will clean up our people and elevate them. As the Prophet ﷺ said in his last sermons, that if your leader were to be a black man, raising him, if you should obey him, if he becomes your leader. So the question is, leadership in the future might be given to black people against other races. And in that time, when that crisis comes, then you have to listen to him and obey him. So the question is, I'm simply saying our people need purification. And it doesn't help if me and you barking at each other. Whenever black people come together, they always seem to, the optics, they're like pit bull. And we just giving satisfaction to the far right, the white supremacists, who are about the just to kill us. We need to have these conversations here, these productive, intelligent conversations here. And I'm simply saying, with all the blessings that God give you with your life, your experience, you need to revisit your notes. When I say your notes, I'm not talking about your physical notes. Revisit. Sorry,
Moses wanted to say something.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's where the maturity comes in. when it's dealing with people, when you're coming together, you're not always you go beyond getting at odds with, being at odds with each other. That's where maturity comes in. Maturity says, so what can we do to bring our talent together, as opposed to going off in our own individualism? And that's the problem, individualism.
Yeah.
I'm my way and I'm stuck in my ways. One does not know how to work again within a community. And African culture is very communal. Western culture is individualistic. African culture is not individualistic. It's in fact, it's rude to eat by yourself in African culture. You don't sit down and eat by yourself. That's rude.
Right. Yeah.
You're meant to eat within the air. So I realize that a lot of things the Muslim community, they do very well. They eat as a community, and that's how you're supposed to do it. So it's to eat. You're supposed to eat together. You're supposed to do activities together. You're supposed to participate. All this separation and individualism, that's Western mentality. Make as much money and live by yourself. Push, stay away. Eat, it's my food. Stay away. It's they're very individual. They're very disconnected with their environment and community. They don't understand community. Everything is individualistic, as opposed to the Black and Asian communities. They say no, you don't walk. It's not individualism. It's communal. It's the collective. And you understand that? We're coming from a different tradition where collectivism is the priority, and the Western world is coming from history and a tradition where individualism is the priority. Me, myself, and I. Worry about you. It's about you. Me. I phone. I this. I that. I said. Everything is I. The iPhone. You got the Instagram begins with an I, and everything's too much I. And there's no we, there's no collective. And we come from a background with collectivism was our strength, and the strength in the unity of doing things together. So when you wanted to tackle a problem, when you have the right numbers, you can achieve it. If you try to tackle that problem by yourself, it can burn you out or break you. So collective principles. And back in the day, they used to have what's that thing? A pardoner. Afro-Caribbean people used to do the thing of pardoner. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Abdullah. You should be. You know about
amnesty?
Pardon?
Is it like an amnesty? What kind of pardon?
No, they used to do like the Afro-Caribbean people used to do like a money. They used to borrow money to the person.
Oh yeah, that scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, so that the person could afford something that they couldn't otherwise afford by themselves. They used to do things like they used to do financial things together. This is back in the day, Brother Mohammed, when Britain was very racist. I think in the 60s and the 70s, and blacks were forced to do things together. They couldn't go to the bank. The racist white banks didn't do anything for us, and they had to rely on each other by force by way of their survival. Or they would have suffered the wrath of the racist white police officers, or the wrath of the NF, the National Front.
Okay,
so
we're gonna really kind of like end it there. When it comes to back and forth, it's really nice, actually, very pleasant discussion. I hope everybody's enjoying it. We are gonna open the floor for Q&A. The link has been posted in the chat. If anybody wants to come on, it has to be on topic. What we're going to do now, if anybody wants to come on, please hit the link and come on, show your face backstage before we can put you onto the main stage. What we're going to do now is finish off the show when it comes to back and forth with 5 minutes ending statements while people in the chat click the link and get your technology and equipment sorted. What we're going to do now is a 5-minute kind of like debrief of today's discussion. So Brother Moses, you'll be given 5 minutes just to talk about today and anything that you would like to plan with us, with Abdullah and myself for the future. It will be nice to hear from you. So you've got 5 minutes for ending statements, and then God willing, we'll go to a Q&A. after when Abdullah also has his 5 minutes. So as soon as you start speaking, Moses, I'll start the stopwatch.
Okay. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this session. I definitely want to explore. I would love to explore with you guys multiculturalism through the lens of Islam. I mentioned to you characters like Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, the Sufi mystic from Turkey, and I mentioned to you Ahmed Yasawi. I mentioned to you the famous Nubian Sufi mystic from Egypt, Dal Nun al-Maziri. I mentioned to you Sheikh Salim al-Hajj Sawari and the Sawari tradition. I mentioned to you convivencia, which was a Moorish term in Spain, in Andalusia, where you had the Moors who ruled for 700 years, and they had the Islamic, Christian, and Jew living for 700 to 800 years peacefully. And it's called convivencia, living together, which is a better term than tolerance, religious tolerance or religious coexistence. We need to be intellectual enough, mature enough, wise enough, smart enough to know that we are dealing with people that might not think like us, but will still be living amongst us. And I really want to explore Muslim and non-Muslim relations and how we interact interact and connect with people from other faiths, into dialogue and all these type of things, in order to get past our differences so we can find ourselves in a more harmonious community and planet. We are not always going to agree, but we can find a common ground and then get past our historical differences, cultural differences, to form a cultural unity. As you've seen how the world's going now, we're becoming more polarized, and individuals in certain characters are exploiting that polarization, that fear, that ignorance, because we have allowed it to happen. As the Quran said, I made you into nations and tribes that you may know each other. Correct? So if that is one of the wisdoms of Islam and the Quran, Muslims should act upon it. That they should find themselves in nations and tribes that they may know each other, not to be seen as the non-believer is a threat to them, or the believer is a threat to the non-believer.
Yeah.
Have I used up all my time?
You still got 2 minutes, Moses.
Okay. So yeah, pretty much so. And obviously how dawah affects the Afro-Caribbean community. Do we need to look at an Afro-Caribbean tailored dawah to deal with people from the Afro-Caribbean background? And is that something that needs to be tailored to the African Caribbean peoples and their experience? And that would be a very interesting program. And because we do experience the same thing but differently, coming from the background and the tribe and ethnicity that we are from. Yeah, some cultural programs to help us unpack certain cultural differences and where it all fits in with us as a black people in Britain.
You got 1 minute left, Brother Moses, if you want to continue, or
yeah, we need to start to teach ourselves financial literacy. And do we need to make money with like-minded people? We go into toxic environments where the people don't think like us, and we just like, nah, we don't want to make money with these people where they're suffocating, they're annoying, and they got very, very triggering characteristics. Do we need to stay amongst like-minded people and do financial entrepreneurship and business with like-minded people to avoid toxic environments which would otherwise trigger us, because we're not supposed to psychologically, emotionally, spiritually be there?
Okay, Brother Abdullah, final statements, 5 minutes. As soon as you start speaking, I'll start the stop.
Yeah, I don't think I need 5 minutes. I'll wrap up in just 2 minutes. I don't think we can do it without God's help. I don't think we can do it without moral guidance. I don't think we can do it without unity. I don't think we can do it without discipline. I don't think we can make any progress, any meaningful progress, without accountability, responsibility, reconciliation, forgiveness, and purification. And without God's help, we might be in a cycle of crime, broken homes, repeated broken homes, continuous repeated crimes, drug addiction, drug abuse, mental health, violence, self-hate, and crisis identity. So number one, I don't think we can do it without God. And I'm thinking we should dedicate one session or 1 2-week slot addressing crime. Another 2 weeks, we can address broken homes. Another 2 weeks, we can address drug addiction, the causes, the factors, mental health, and the violence that perpetuates our community over and over and over. I think these are pertinent issues we have to discuss. And in discussing them, we're trying to understand them, their cycles, their causes, their circumstances, and come up with solutions. But I always believe that God has legislated. He didn't create us, except he legislated solutions for every problem. And all these problems that we have is a deviation from the path of God. All of them, whether it's crime, broken home, addiction, mental health, violence, all these is a result of a broken man in a broken home with a broken covenant, broken heart. He's just a broken individual. And as a broken individual, Islam will reform him. Islam will make him whole. Islam will teach him discipline. Islam will give him responsibility. Islam will give him spirituality. And Islam will give him these things in a unique way to any other faith, or a unique way to any other man-made up ideas. So the kind of, Moses, I'm sure you have seen fasting in the month of Ramadan. I'm sure you have witnessed the devotion, the dedication that Muslims undergo in fasting. Young girls, 12 years old, 13 years, volunteering, wanting to. Their parents cannot even stop them. Sometimes they start learning to fast half day at the age 8 years old, 7 years old. They fast half day, then they fast the other half day until they get used to it. And from a young age, you go into a masjid and you will see the young children dressed all in white and they're memorizing that Quran from cover to cover. And then they'll go and wash up, clean themselves. And you look at their faces, you see the light coming out of those faces. That has to mean something to you. That must mean something to you. And nobody can tell me, you look at all these kids. For generations upon generations, they're memorizing this Quran. For generations and generations, they're memorizing books of hadith. And from young, and they're fasting, and they're praying. And you look at them, their morality. And you cannot say that's not an example that we need as a people, coming from paganistic background, where everything is a and a carnival. And, it's bad. It's really bad. And I'm saying times to get serious. Time for us to learn responsibility, accountability, reconciliation, forgiveness. And we should dedicate time towards each of these subjects, do an outreach work to reach out to our people who are dying, who are killing themselves with these problems. And this is what my Islam is about. My Islam, as I said to you before when we had a conversation, my Islam is that Islam came to save souls and human lives. It came to offer sanctity, to make things sacred. So Allah sent the Quran to teach you who he is and to inform us of everything that he makes sacred. The prophets are sacred. The masjids are sacred. Life is sacred. Marriage is sacred. Everything that he makes sacred and holy, he wants you to understand that so that you honor that and you observe this sanctity and you become sacred. So this is my challenge to most people. Islam can do the job. Islam has done the job, and Islam is ready to do the job. We are ready. And if anybody wants to challenge that, I'm open to have a civilized conversation with them. And I've seen what Islam done to me and many of us who accepted Islam. And I believe mankind's salvation is returning back to his covenant with God. You have a covenant with God, return to your covenant with God. What he promised, he will fulfill. And if you engage with a covenant with God and you're loyal to your covenant with God, God will give you guaranteed success. Paradise, everlasting life with no sickness, no death, no worries, nothing foul, nothing dirty. God promise is binding in him. And I'm a testimony to that. I've seen that. I've seen prayers answered. I've seen God covenant. I've seen what Islam do to people from the streets. I see how it bring them back from heroin. We see that in Nation of Islam. So the Quran has that impact. Islam has that impact, and Islam could do the job for us.
Abdullah, that's 5 minutes. What we're going to do now, I've got a question for you, Moses. It's going to be slightly off topic. When I encountered yourself at Speaker's Corner, you were mentioning regarding the Prophet, peace be upon him, being a pagan. I want to ask you, where did you get that information from?
And I understood that the Prophet Muhammad, he was born to the Quraysh, which was a paganistic Arab tribe, and most of Arabia was under paganism. So because there was no establishment of Islam, and I understood that the Prophet Muhammad wasn't a Hebrew, like a Jew, and he wasn't a Christian practicing Christianity. So naturally, it would only make logical sense to assume that the Prophet Muhammad was born to a paganistic family. His mum and dad was a pagan, so I naturally assumed he would have been raised a pagan. Whether he believed in paganistic ideals or not, in his mind, he born into a culture where paganism was dominant and was the ruling faith of the day. So naturally, my conclusion was drawn. Prophet Muhammad likely was, if not a cultural pagan, or born to a paganistic family where paganism was the norm. Up until the point where he had his spiritual experiences, he wouldn't have challenged paganism before then. Does that make sense?
I'm going to give. I don't want to push back. That's fine. I want Abdullah to respond to that, if you don't mind, Abdullah.
Yeah, there's two interesting points with that. It's fair for somebody to make that conclusion. I get that part. It's two things. Number one is that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, despite born in a paganistic society, there were people who was upon Hanifa. They were upright. They never worship idols, like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He never worship idols. And there's a few people who had inclination to the Abrahamic lineage. Because remember,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, so Ismail was down there. The Yemenis was down there before. Ismail was down there. So because Ismail lived there, the traditions of Ismail came down through the Arab people. So the Arabs also had connections with Bani Israel. Some of the Jews were down there, and there were 12 prominent leaders, Jews, scholars. And these scholars were not just Jews, they were scholars of scriptures. So all scriptures, they would check all scriptures, analyze them, and they were expecting a prophet to come there. So in the presence of a paganistic society, so in their paganism, they didn't believe that the gods they were worshiping were real gods. They believed that these gods will get them closer to God, right? So they didn't believe there was no other God but these gods, the idols. No, they believed these would just get them close to Allah. So that's a different type of paganism. So you have paganism with Allah, they worship gods with him, and their paganism who does not acknowledge Allah other than Allah. So that's one. The second part is that they claim that Prophet Muhammad was possessed by a demon. The Prophet Muhammad was never possessed by a demon, but witchcraft was done on him. Now, if you look at the life of Jacob, not Jacob, sorry, Job.
Joseph.
Job.
Oh,
Job
Job.
was infected. Job was infected with diseases. Job, the one who had all the patience, right? So Job, Ayub, we call him in Arabic, he was affected with a lot of sicknesses and diseases and a whole bunch of complications and calamities. His house fall down, all his kids die, all sorts. He had wealth, he lost all his wealth, disease coming out his body. And Satan infected Joseph with trials and disasters of sicknesses. So a Jewish woman did witchcraft on the Prophet, peace be upon him. Yes, that happened. But the witchcraft wasn't a witchcraft where his whole body was possessed by a demon. No, it's a witchcraft that was done on him to confuse him. And his nature was compromised. So he was so confused. What was normal, he couldn't do what was normal. His motivation wasn't there. That's because a Jewish woman did witchcraft on him. She take his hair, tied, do all the witchcraft, throw it down herself. Similarly, with Job, Ayub, Satan did some nasty stuff to Ayub. And you're probably aware of this, that a jinn could go inside you and defecate, or a jinn could take his feces and throw it in you, in your face. So they can urinate in you when you're sleeping, urinate in your ears. The shayateen, the jinns, they can do stuff to you. So God grant permission to these people to affect the Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad was affected. God sent a cure for him, but he was not possessed. When I say possessed, I mean an evil spirit had entered him and had total control of him. No, it is that they sent sickness on him and they made him ill, as the same was done to Ayub. So there's a comparison. Yeah, but we don't deny that he was sick and he got sick, but we deny and we refute that no evil jinn didn't possess him. No. Similarly, what happened to him is the same thing that happened to Ayub, which we call Job in English.
I was gonna say, just to be fair with the brothers, obviously, I'm not fully. It's not when you see me in Speaker's Corner, I give the same scrutiny to all religions, Christianity, Judaism as well. It's not to say that Islam is the only religion that one scrutinizes. One scrutinizes Christianity because there's many things to be scrutinized in Christianity, and there's many things to be scrutinized in Judaism. There's a lot of things that they do wrong. That they need to be welcome. That they need to be welcome.
The scrutiny is welcome, right? The questions are welcome. Yeah. But however, the claims have to be credible. So if someone come and say such and such about my religion, and I look around and no Muslims believe that, then I said that's a baseless claim. No Muslim in history believed the Prophet had an evil shayateen controlling him and inside of him and possess him. Possession means something is inside of you and take control over you. So if that thing wants you to walk there, you have to walk there. No, the Prophet wasn't possessed. So scrutiny, criticism, investigation, and inquiry, examining text, all these things are welcome. We can have this conversation, but it has to have some sort of credibility and it must have some sort of reference. Like I could appreciate you saying one can draw the conclusions. One can make a fair assumption. I get that. That's fair. But on the other hand,
not to let, because I really truly I should put the scrutiny on those so-called Jews and their Talmud, which has got a lot of. I understand it to have a lot of strange and bizarre things inside there. And the Jews are nothing. The Jews.
I don't want to cut you up, but I was quite taken back when you were questioning Abdullah regarding the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, questioning that he was raised a pagan, or he had some pagan aspects in his belief. For my understanding of reading the Sealed Nectar, which is a fantastic book regarding the biography of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and I recommend this book to you. I don't know if you can see it there. The Sealed Nectar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very good,
I see it.
It's a scholarly work.
Is it also called the Sirah? for sure. The biography of the Prophet.
Yeah, but this is called the Sealed Nectar. This won so many awards for its really in-depth historical information. For me, when I was taken back, is that for somebody to, the aspects of Tawheed, meaning the oneness of God, is very important in Islam. And the aspects of shirk is very, very serious. So anybody who invokes other than Allah is committing shirk. You know, the prophets, all of them never did that. Never did that throughout Islamic history or the Islamic worldview. But when I was there at Speaker's Corner, I know Speaker's Corner it's you know, hostile sometimes, and there's cameras and so forth. And sometimes you are encouraged to debate a Muslim, you know, and sometimes, you know, you are kind of like emotionally charged, you know, and you say things without really thinking or act in a particular way that you normally don't act, right? But I was taken back by that. I'm thinking, how is Moses coming to this conclusion? Just because you're born within a paganistic environment doesn't make you a pagan. And Brother Abdullah mentioned that Abraham, peace be upon him, he was born in a very highly motivated pagan environment, you know. So I can see you smile. I'll let you respond to that.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. You can make the same argument. I had the same conversation in Speaker's Corner with a Christian who was trying to argue the same. Very interesting. They was trying to argue the same case for Constantine. I said Constantine wasn't a real Christian. He was a pagan, and he used the Christianity. And the Christian was arguing, was debating me and debating me. They recorded it, but they didn't. For some reason, they didn't put it up on their channel. And I said, no, I didn't believe that. I didn't believe Constantine was a genuine. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to say he wasn't genuine in his shrewd political decision to become a Christian. And there's not a lot of there's some information said no, he was genuinely sincere to become Christianity. But see, Constantine is really the turning point for how Christianity takes off and spreads to the four corners of the planet. Because here is a man with power who makes Christianity a state religion. It's Constantine. But Constantine didn't convert to Christianity till very late. He supposedly had a revelation on the battlefield where he saw the sign of the cross with the Cairo, and he saw the sign of the cross, and then he told the soldiers to draw the symbol on their shields. And I just didn't believe, if you look closely investigate the character Constantine, I don't think he was as genuine as a Christian as he claims. He was raised a pagan. His mom and dad were pagan. It's a very
I have to
stretch up.
Apologize. I have to leave now. So I'm so sorry.
Okay, Abdullah, we're going to wrap it up anyway now. The
Yeah.
fact that you've got to go, no problem. We probably can do a part 2 of this and talk upon this particular aspect of paganism amongst the Arabs at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And we can unpack that in our next discussion. Hopefully that sounds good. Moses, it's been excellent having you on. I really appreciate it. Keep in contact with Abdullah, and hopefully we can do this again. Brother Abdullah, I know you've got to shoot off. Have you got a minute? Each just want to say a few words, and then we can end the show. Abdullah,
Okay, can I go first?
Yeah,
Yes.
But go on, Moses. Go ahead first.
I understand paganism to be somewhat of the root of many of the world religions. Whether it be once upon a time paganism dominating Arabia, and then they got rid of the rest of the 359 gods and they came up with one god, Allah. Or it be Christians with the paganism, and like I said with you, Constantine. Very interesting that they used to worship Constantine and the Romans, and they used to worship many gods, and they had a god that they worship on Sunday called Sol Invictus, and then they merged Sol Invictus with Jesus Christ, and now Jesus Christ they worship on Sunday, as opposed to the Hebrews who worshipped on a Saturday, the Sabbath. And so Christians try to be slick and say, yeah, but you know, Jesus died and he rose again on the third day, and so therefore our holy days are Sunday. It coincides with Sol Invictus, the pagan god that the Romans worshipped, the god of the sun. And then you got the Jews who walk around like they always believed in one God, but the Jews don't have their own calendar. The Jews follow a pagan Babylonian calendar till this very day. So the so-called one God that they worship, they follow a pagan calendar. The Jewish people today follow a Babylonian pagan calendar right now, as we speak.
Okay, Moses, thank you for that. Have a good day. If you want to stay, you can stay to hear Brother Abdullah's final minute, and then we're going to end the show. Brother Abdullah, I know you got to go.
I thank Allah for His glory and His favors upon us. I ask Allah to guide all of us, guide our heart, and to protect us and guide us. Thank you, Brother Moses, for being present. I enjoyed the time. You and I had a conversation on the phone. We spent, I don't know, about close to an hour. It was a lovely conversation, and I hope we can have much more conversation. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said there's a man who looks as though he's going hellfire. When the decree of Allah befalls him, he does the deeds of paradise and he goes to paradise. And a man looks as though he's going to hell, and he's looked as if he's going hell, and he does the deeds of the people of paradise, and eventually he goes to paradise. So the question is, what I'm trying to say in context to the way we start, we probably didn't start on the right footing, and sometimes the worst get the best of us, but I'm so happy that we're on a good footing now. I really appreciate that. I enjoy listening to you, and I hope that God can make me and you instruments of making our community, ourselves, our lives better. And I hope that God can use us as light for others. So we pray that the glory goes to God, and God open that path and shine that light for us so that we can walk. So may Allah help us to return to His covenant of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And I thank all the listeners who are here, and Brother Muhammad for giving us this opportunity to be on his channel to express our experiences and our thoughts and our feelings. If we said anything wrong, may God forgive us. If we said anything that we may have offended each other, we apologize. It's not our intentions, and that's what makes us great men. That we just want to serve, and we want to help, and we want to make things better. So thank you so much, Brother Moses. And I hope that God, guide both of us to His way and to the way of saving souls and saving lives. And thank you, Brother Muhammad. I have to run off now. I'm a little bit late, so we'll catch up soon, inshallah.
Thank you so much. This was one of the easiest debates to host and to time.
It's easy.
I'd like to thank Abdullah and Moses for doing that. And I'd like to thank the audience. And I'd like to thank the brothers and sisters who've donated via super chats and super stickers. That small donation that you have made will go towards Abdullah's project in Africa to establish an orphanage, a masjid, a water well. So barakallah feekum to the brothers and sisters who donated. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And whoever wants to watch that discussion that Abdullah and Brother Moses had, it's actually uploaded on my YouTube channel. It's called, let me just put the link here. The link is, it's called Part 1, Your Prophet Was a Pagan, and of course claimed debunked by Muslim. So go to my YouTube channel, you'll see Part 1 and Part 2. You see Brother Abdullah and Moses in a different type of hat on, and it's very fascinating discussion. But Moses, once again, thank you for coming on. Feel free to take any of this clip if you want to use it for, if you got a YouTube channel or for learning purposes. You got my permission to upload and stuff. As long as you don't edit in a disrespectful way, you can use the clip for your educational purposes, not a problem. Once again, thank you to all the brothers and sisters for tuning in. This is your brother Muhammad from COV FF. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Brother